I'm cold.
Hello, and welcome to the Big Money Stylist Podcast, episode number 24. As you can tell, in case you didn't hear, Coach Val is very cold at the moment. I guess I should have pre-warned her that I was going to hit record. That one's on me.
Little heads up next time, please, and thank you.
But, here we go, and here we are. So welcome back to another episode. Coach Val, this is your first one back since BMS convention.
I know. I'm so sad I missed the one afterwards when you guys are like all hyped up. I'm like, oh.
We were hyped up, amped up. We made a lot of Harry Potter jokes, BMS jokes. There was just a lot going on, actually, but
Well, I'm still riding my high, so woohoo.
So, okay, talk to me. How are you feeling after BMS Con? How are you feeling before going into it?
Like a zombie just trying to survive.
Were you feeling like nervous, amped?
Everything. I was like super excited, and there was like so much work to be done. There was no time off. So I think it was like, I don't know, we worked like 20 days in a row ahead of time. And I was just like, once we get through BMS Con, like that was like just the goal to like get through it. But I was excited for it, but there was just so much to get done. But as soon as it started, the energy of the room was like so great, and I just felt like it, went really, really well. I loved literally every minute of it.
And it's so funny because I think back all the way back to the very first BMS convention where your whole entire plan and goal was just not poop your pants.
Right.
And I remember we got on the stage the first day and we're like, oh my God, there's so many chairs. And this time when we stood up there, you looked at me and you're like, this is it? I was like, yeah, this
hashtag growth.
I mean, but how does that feel knowing like 6 months ago, we stood in front of a room of 165 artists and we were all like,
right?
Oh, fuck. Do you see all of these chairs? There's going to be a person in every fucking chair.
Yeah.
And then to double the size of that and then be standing here on stage in this room and we look at each other and we're like, this is not that bad. Like, how does it feel knowing like that amount of growth is fucking huge?
It is amazing. And especially like if you know me and you know how like painfully shy I am and how much I hate to be like in the spotlight of any sort, and that I was like totally fine, and not just fine, like I really enjoyed all of it, the whole process of it. I was like, oh my gosh, if I could grow at this rate, like anyone can.
And it was a lot for you to get there. Not like a lot, but it required a lot because like you said, you are so shy and you're like,
yeah,
this is a lot. Maybe not. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so fun. Let's
totally.
keep going. I remember.
That's you in like your prime, and like you love that shit, and you do so well at it. You're amazing at it, and it's inspiring to me, but that's just not like my natural ammo. Like that's not how I operate at all. So all of it, leaving the kids, like being in front of people, putting myself out there, teaching, none of it's like my natural state. And so that I did it and enjoyed it, I was like, yay. Okay. All the hard work's paying off.
You're like, I'm fucking doing it. So let's talk actually about your kids for a second. So I remember first BMS Con, I'm not like throwing you under the bus here, but you were like, I have to leave my kids for how long?
Yeah.
I gotta fucking wait, what? And it was not your happiest of places.
No, so, that was the first time I've ever left my kids. I've left them like randomly overnight with my mom, but it won't even be like a 24-hour period. Mm-hmm. So that was the first time that I left them for like multiple nights.
It was from a Monday to a Saturday.
Yeah, and if you know me and I don't see my kids for a while, her name's Dark Val, and she comes out and she's very bitter. She's not nice to anyone, and I just like shoot out the like nastiest one-liners to everyone. I feel bad for anyone who hangs out with me. I'm like, sorry, don't hold me accountable to anything. I haven't seen my kids in 2 days. Like, it's bad. And she came out at the last BMS convention, as much as like I loved it and we were so busy and all of that, but it was my very first time, and so like I get in these little like moods and Dark Val comes out and I miss the kids. But this time, like, I was prepared for it and I had done it, and so I handled it. I feel a lot better, and I'm like, you guys, I never lost my shit this time. Like,
no.
Yay me.
And I will say, although Dark Val maybe, I mean, whatever, but for me, Dark Val's my favorite Val because she's so fucking snarky and funny every single time. I'm like, this is hysterical, but I'm also very aware that you and I have a very, I'm not going to say dark sense of humor. It's very dry. I feel like it's almost borderline like those European where you watch them and you're like,
was that a joke?
Yeah, those are my fave when you're like, that may have been a joke. It may not have been a joke, but that's okay too, I guess. So we're just going to go with it. But I think it's so cool, like looking at the team, we're talking about like the growth we've seen in everyone. That the very first convention, Val was like, I don't know. And this time she was like, let's do it. Because it was just so, we've grown so much in barely 6 months. And it's insane to see this. So
I feel like we're on the fast track for life.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, I was joking around with, I think, everybody this long the other day, and I'm like, they're like, Danielle, that was like 3 months ago. I'm like, oh my God, that wasn't like 2 years ago. Like, it's just, we're in this weird time warp. And we always say that in our events. Like, when people come in, we're like, after 3 days, we're like, do you guys feel like we've known each other for years? You've been here for like weeks? And they're all like, yeah, but it's not in like a tired way. It's almost like this, you just get so much shit done that you're just feeling like you literally have grown so much in just 3 days. You know what I mean? So
Oh, yeah. And that's what I think is funny, because even like after the first day, we're like, day one's over. And you can see in their eyes, they're like, day one? It's been like 10 years. What are you talking about? So, and at the end, I'm always like, okay, who here feels like they've been here for 10 years? Raise your hand. And half the room does it. I'm like, who here feels like you've been here for 5 minutes? And the other half raises it. And I'm like, I get you, 5-minute people. Let's do it tomorrow. One more day. So today, the main topic that we're going to be talking about, every single week we go through one main topic, which is power, production, profit, and protection. Last week you heard Val and I, Danielle and I go through production and the production of putting on such a big event like BMS convention and what we saw before, afterwards, and just all the work that really goes into succeeding and work itself. So today we're going to be discussing profit. So guys, let's talk about profit. Danielle, since BMS convention.
Well, I was just thinking, it was, I don't know if you guys knew this, but it was actually our first $1 million event.
What?
Shut up.
So
that's high five all around.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yeah, because when we sell it into Mastermind, it's our first $1 million event. And people don't know how much work, like Garrett and I were discussing this as we were driving home from doing the event, because people don't do these kind of events because they're kind of risky. Like, you have to, people maybe don't know this, but when you're doing an event, you have to fill like 350 rooms, and like if you don't, you have to, you're out like $1 million, and it's like, as long as you fill the rooms and you actually, whatever you're selling, you sell it out, then you're good to go. Then that's where you can have a little bit of more profit. But even then, like the teams and all the shit that it takes to put on that kind of event, people don't do it unless they're like mass organizations, because they're expensive, and they're kind of like, you have to be able to know how to market and do that kind of thing. And so when we were leaving, he was like, good job. And I was like, oh, thanks. Yeah, we killed it. And he was like, that was like the first $1 million event, if we go off of like people joining the tribe and the team and the mastermind and all that. So, I mean, now we have to follow it up with like putting in the work, but it just goes to show, like, that's pretty cool.
So freaking exciting.
And it's not like, to me, and I know we're like talking about this, and like 350 to me doesn't seem that big anymore. I'm like, well, fuck, when's 5,000?
I told you last week, I was like, okay, I looked at Garrett and I was like, 350 is nothing. I'm like, next time 500. He's like, Ani, the room's at capacity. I'm like, we need another room, Garrett.
I'm putting it out there.
Danielle wants a stadium.
Next convention, summer this time, 1,500 at least.
Minimum, for sure.
At least. I know, like, the track that we're going on, we're like doubling down each time. So I believe that it will get there. And I think the hardest part of like when business owners try to start a business is like the first 5 years, you just hustle and bleed and you learn a shit ton, and most people quit before it gets going.
Yeah.
And so they're like, oh, I've been doing this for 3 to 5 years or whatever. Like, I'm at 7 years with my business and Garrett's at 10. Like, I feel like we're at this point now where we're like, it's fucking go time. You know what I mean? And most people are not willing to get to that point where it like you start to figure out a few things in life.
Well, and I have no doubt that it's going to be at least 1,500 next summer, because I just wanted to know how many days away BMS Con 3 was, and it's, I believe, 152, 151 now. And I posted that on my Instagram. I had to go back and say tickets are not on sale, because my inbox and my texts and my emails and even like our network was blowing up. People going, 154 days. Well, are tickets on sale? Are we sold out? I'm like, we're barely done with this event, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. But
I even felt that way. Like, I saw that and I was like, damn it, Ani, let me enjoy my weekend. I'm already stressed about the next one.
I'm like, this is enjoying it. Look how close the next one is. But I feel like I have to geek out for a minute. I had no idea we did that. I'm fucking over the moon about this.
Well, because you know the investment to join for the year that they're in, and how many people signed up. If you do the numbers, that's we can now say we did our first $1 million event. So that's super cool. I feel like that definitely puts a ding on the map, or in our industry at least. I mean,
for sure.
I think people were sitting on the sidelines so long waiting to, like, they're just like waiting, like, where's this gonna go? What's this gonna do? And for so many years I had so many shit talkers, and like I felt like I was just like just had to like break through and go tunnel vision and be like, don't listen. You know what I mean? And now it's getting to the point where people like, and Garrett and I will talk about this all the time. Like, you'll get haters at every level in which what you're at.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're so far past them that they'll be like, I knew her once. And you're like, yeah, you did, you fucking dick. But not really, but kind of. You don't really care that much. You're so focused that you're just like moving forward and doing your own thing. And people that they think they're like in the same running race as you, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, peace out. And then you're just that girl that they once knew.
Absolutely. Guys, I know you're hearing us on the podcast, but if you want to watch us live, go to bigmoneystylistnow.com and you can look at the face of pure happiness because we did it. Oh my God.
I gotta hurry and down this green smoothie. Hold on. I gotta chug it because it's so gross. This one is not good.
Which one is it? Number 1 or number 2?
Yeah, like I don't know. It's the lean greens.
So basically, guys, here's what happened. During you drink that. I'm gonna explain what's happening. During this past event, Coach Val may or may not have, hint, she did, in one day drink a coffee, 4 Red Bulls, and a 5-hour energy. How her
2 coffees.
Oh, excuse me. Pardon, ma'am. I clearly got that wrong. She had 2 coffees, 4 Red Bulls, and a 5-hour energy. How her tiny little heart did not explode. And I don't mean tiny because you're mean.
Time frame? Like
a day.
One day.
One day there.
Oh my God, I cannot drink that much caffeine. Like I'll drink a half of a 5-hour and then I'm good. Like and then sometimes I'll have an iced chai, and if I have an iced chai, I'm like, Crazy Danielle's here. She's back. I do not know how Val's heart did not explode. And when I say little heart, I don't mean because you don't care. I just mean you're such a tiny human. Your heart can't be that big. You're so small. So when I heard, I'm like, what number is that? She's like, 4. We're out of Red Bulls. I'm like, and
what
you
the
seem
fuck?
so chill.
There's so much judgment when I'm like, Jeff, can I have another Red Bull? He's like, you fucking finished those already? I'm like, there's just 4.
Don't judge me.
There was only 16. What do you want from me? But really, I bought an entire case for Val and Jill because they were the only 2 that wanted them. And then morning of day 2, Val's like, Ani, we're out of Red Bull. I'm like, no, there's a whole case. She's like, yeah, we out. I'm like, oh my
It
God,
makes me tired to drink a lot of caffeine for some reason. Like it has I don't know, it like has a backfiring.
I honestly think
can't do
it just barely keeps me alive.
Oh my God. I literally, like, it spikes me and then throws me down within like an hour. Literally, I'm like, and then I'm crash.
I never
do
felt
it.
like the high from it. Like, we all saw Stacy when she drank it, and if she's drunk or if she's on caffeine, she has that same like hyper. It's so
literally,
funny.
I kept walking into the event. She's like, hello, Sister Danielle. And I was like, oh my God, I'm back in church. What are you calling me this?
You're like, it's a temple again. Stop it. Just kidding. But I will say, guys, here's a fun story. This was day 2. We have like a big, not like party in the morning, but we're playing music. Everyone's dancing. And Stacy was actually standing on top of chairs, like to tell like the groups, like, hey, this is where you're going to sit. And she was so excited, literally swinging hair around, jumping on the chairs, jumping up and down, that once the morning session was finished and she sat down, she stood up, threw up in a coffee cup in front of 2 of the warriors, walked out because they came up to us. One of them came up to us and was like, Val, Stacy just threw up in a cup. Is she okay? And we started crying from laughing so hard.
She's so much like Garrett in a way. It kills me. Like, I know she thinks she's like so different, but they're so like, their personalities are so like extreme. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, that's why I think in a way, like, I'm good for Stacy just like I'm good for Garrett. You know?
You're like, I'm going to try to reel you guys
like,
back
guys,
in.
moderation is best.
I'm sure Stacy's like, I did moderate with 16 coffees, but it's fine. I just know when I heard she threw up in a cup,
I couldn't stop laughing.
It was the funniest thing
I mean,
I'd ever heard.
If you're gonna drink that much caffeine, like, hold it down. No.
Or just don't drink that much caffeine.
Yeah,
I don't. Although I knew that second morning, or maybe the third morning, my breakfast was 2 cups of coffee. And in case you don't know me, I don't drink soda, and I don't drink energy drinks, and I don't drink coffee, excluding coffee, except for event weeks. So that caffeine like started kicking in. I'm like, and then I'm like, I didn't have breakfast, empty stomach, 2 cups of coffee, and also my coffee is disgustingly sweet. Like I will put.
She puts like 20 packs of sugar in it.
It's like 10 or 15, depending how big the cup is.
How dare me? 15,
I
my bad. Apologies.
It's okay, Sister
Did you want any coffee with that sugar?
No, I don't. I might as well at this point just pour the packets of sugar down my mouth and just take that kind.
Did you guys eat so much? I feel like when you're on stage and you're doing stuff, like it's not the salon. We can eat like little bits throughout the day, but for some reason on stage I was like, I just need a big bowl of pasta and pancakes. Like I just
I barely ate. I was so full from my Red Bulls.
I
ate breakfast so much. I didn't eat dinner once the whole time we were there.
Oh my God. I'm the big heifer of the group. Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
I like my carbs.
I wanted to eat more, but I think I'm like, okay, Garrett's going to talk for 20 minutes and then I got to get back on stage and do this. Like there was so much going back and forth and having to like manage so much shit. I'm like, I don't have fucking time to to eat. I crammed to have a Pop-Tart in my mouth once.
Oh,
And
you guys saw me when I was low food. I think I have something wrong with me. Like when I get low blood sugar, I literally can't do hair.
You're crashing.
I
But that's
shut
how I
down.
am too. Because once like it's just like a crash. You're just like, oh my God, your body needs more. And I think because for me, because I eat so consistently every 3 hours, my body knows like, okay, metabolism's up, burn through this shit because she's for sure gonna cram more food in. Like my body just goes.
I like that we turned today's show into like a little bit of our nutrition.
So
moral of the story is
don't drink 16 Red Bulls. Danielle's green smoothie juice thing is disgusting, but here, watch her drink it and watch the
Guys,
grimace on her
so good.
face.
Hold on.
No, it's not good. She just, it's disgusting watching her drink it. But
So delish.
it's fake and she doesn't really like it.
No, I actually do like some of the other ones. This one's just rough. You know how some of them are just rough to get down? You're like,
Yeah.
No, I have drank 0 of them. I go and get the
this has kale, parsley, lemon, celery. Where's the apple or the honey or the like raspberries? Or
nowhere. It's a juice cleanse. It's not meant to be good.
So gross.
You suffer through it.
I
So,
am.
but jumping back to like profit, I mean, I'm still fucking amped, guys. BMS is $1 million company. Ah, we fucking did it. Holy shit. Okay.
Okay.
I'll reel
whew,
this
you
in.
got that out. You got.
It's gonna happen right after this. We do our live training for all our mastermind students.
Oh,
Guess what's the
gosh.
first thing I'm addressing? I know I'm fired up for the week,
I was
guys.
just gonna say
So
you're fucked up, fired up is totally.
it's gonna be all about work. But even with that, so I feel like something we see with the students that we've said before though, like everyone assumes like the profit is all about money. Like for us, I don't even think it's like, we got $1 million, we're so great. It's like, holy fucking shit, all the hard work, all the time, all the energy, the tears some days, because that's definitely happened. Like all of it came together and we're finally like, we're on the fucking map now. Like there's no denying that we're here. And that to me is huge. Not because to be like a celebrity, but the bigger we get, the more people we help.
Right.
And that to me is just like, so Val,
Totally.
yeah, let's talk about that. Students who always come in every single event, every single time, every single student, they're like, I want money. That's the only thing.
But I got to address this really, really quick in this podcast because, like, when we throw out numbers like this and people are like, I hear, like, oh, they're all about the numbers or they're all about the money and this and that. But we actually encourage that in our education because if you don't know the profit, if you don't know your numbers, then you're not moving forward. And what's the point of working and what's the point of, like, just to be famous or say I'm cool? No, that doesn't work. At some point, that burns out in your life and you're getting sucked dry in so many other areas. So the numbers and the money has to be important. I know as a mom of having 2 kids, like, I wouldn't fucking do this shit if there wasn't profit. And there's been so many times in my life where I'm like, screw it. So I just wanted to like put that out there. Like as much as we're like throwing out numbers, like, yeah, we did this awesome event. And some people might be like, oh, good for you. And some people might be like, oh, about the money. But either way, that is an important factor in business. Otherwise, what is the point other than, like at some point you'll just burn out.
Well, and not only that, because so many times we look at like, oh, I'm successful because I'm tired, or oh, I'm successful because I'm happy. I feel like the event went great. And we can feel however we want to feel, but if we don't go forward and look like, how did the event actually do for the first time?
Right.
Or I guess technically the second time, like we have no idea like where we need to course correct, what we need to change, what we need to do. And that comes down to, I feel like numbers are even part of protection. Like you have to know what you're doing in order to like continue forward and move. But I would just like to say the fact that it was our second BMS convention.
I know.
I'm going to be
So exciting.
I'm going to be riding a high for till the next convention. 151 days, guys. Just kidding. I don't know what the number is, but we are somewhere around there.
You do know the number. Don't act like you don't.
I do. You want to know how I found out? I literally Googled how many days until this date. And then I Googled it and it was like 154 days. I'm like, thank you, Google. I appreciate it.
I didn't have to count them out.
All right. I was not going to do that. So, Val.
Yes.
I'm jumping topics. So, students who come in and they're like, I'm all about the money, whoop, whoop. And then by the time they leave, they're like, what money?
Yeah. It's so funny. People like start out their why, and sometimes it'll be like general, like, oh, I just want fancier vacations, or I want, more money, or, everyone has their money goals, which is great. You need to like have that. And that's the way that you grow is like knowing where you're at and having goals to like get there. But by the end of the event, anytime that we have one, we all realize like everyone's like profit is actually like time. That's what they're looking for, is the freedom and the time. And I felt like with this event, when like I know Danielle and I were like on stage speaking about, being a mom and missing out on a lot of things. And we got so many messages about like during the event, one of our students, she was like, I literally like when you said that, I was just like in tears. And I called my babies that night and we're like, was saying that the next thing that I'm doing is I'm contacting all my clients, and from here on out, I'm not working Saturdays. And like, I've been putting my clients in front of them, and no more, not one more fucking day. And like, when they say that, like, to me, that's profit too. You know, like, obviously I want time and stuff with my family, but like, me sharing the message and them getting it and receiving it and taking a stand for them and their family, like, I'm like, oh my gosh. And there was like, I mean, that's one of the stories, but another girl, I know you know who I'm thinking of, she did that same thing. She's been working our program and living it like so hardcore and just like always editing back, and she's actually going to be one of our trainers for Warrior Women. But she still hadn't made that decision to not work Saturdays, and it hit her, you know. And then Amy Netterman, same thing. And I was telling her, like, I get it. Like, we teach this stuff, and it's even hard for us sometimes to hold ourselves accountable. And I wouldn't, if you and Garrett wouldn't have sat me down and been like, this is bullshit. You don't work on Saturdays. Be with your family. Why are you complicating this? And like, put that deadline to me. I don't know that I would have like done it, or it would have taken me much longer. So that part is just like, I love that part of this program where people are taking a stand for themselves and their family and their time and getting a profit that way.
And I think something super cool is when BMS Con first started, Danielle went on stage, Val did, and myself, and we just kind of told a little bit of our story. And right before that, there was a girl talking, and Garrett said, what do you want? She's like, I want freedom. He's like, freedom to do what? She's like, I don't know. She said, but my mom has always relied on my dad for everything, which is fine. They're happily married. But she goes, I don't want that for me. I just want to do I want to do whatever I want and just have the freedom to do that. And when she said it, I was like, oh my God, I feel you, because that's me to a T. I am so fiercely independent. So when I was on stage and we were telling our story, I looked at her, I'm like, I get you. I'm like, I understand wanting freedom. Like, I will never again, because I had let my clients dictate so much of everything that I did, the time, the energy, the days, the money. Like, my clients dictated everything. And I told her, I said, never again will I ever let someone dictate my life when they don't even give a shit about me. But I'm like, I get you wanting freedom. Like, that is my number one thing I've always said. And for me, it's I want to do what I want, when I want, how I want, be damned what everybody else thinks, which basically, welcome to BMS. Like, I swear that's like basically our entire program. But I think it's so cool. And even like now, one of the students inside of our program, she I just was telling Val the story. She actually has a disease that only 400 people in the world have, in the U.S. have. So it's not very common. And she has a little baby boy, and she has to go, and she has 2 heart stents in, and she has to get them taken out. And the doctor, right before she came for a BMS intensive a couple months ago, the doctor said, I'm not going to do it. If I do it, there's a chance you're not going to make it out, and I don't want to be responsible for a son not growing up with his mother. And that then coming into BMS, and you know how like hard that is. It was a fucking, not a shit show, but it was hard for her to like reel back in when we were talking about certain things, because that's what she was going through. She just put inside the Mastermind Network that she has never been happier. She has been spending more time with her son, and because of the power that she found inside of Mastermind and inside of BMS, with all the love and the support, she called her doctor and said, come January, end of December, I'm going through the surgery because I know I'm going to make it out. And that to me, like, oh, like fucking like gutted me even still. Like, I'm like reeling back in tears now because I love her so much. But hearing that from her, like, that's profit to me.
Absolutely.
Because now she, and I won't say her name in case this is what she wants this to be like private, but this is something for her that she's been dealing with for so long. And it's been such a like, not a sore spot, but it's been like something that like digs into you deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper, that you don't even know how to get out of that anymore. And so, and she even said, she's like, because basically she said, like, because it's dealing with like her aorta and her heart, even like a tiny prick or cut could make her bleed out. And she's like, I'm aware that this surgery is very risky. I know it's going to be hard. She goes, but I know I'm going to make it through. She goes, and if I don't, she's like, my son and my husband will be fine.
Is she in a lot of pain with where she's at right now? Is that why she's doing the surgery?
I think it's her chances of like fixing whatever's wrong is better taking the stents out. Oh, okay. And she's super young. She's my age. She's like mid to late 20s. She's really young. So, but hearing that and hearing her say like, because when I left intensive, I changed everything. She's like, I drop clients. I spend more time with my son. Like, I'm getting all NBR clients now. She goes, I even told my doctor, I was like, I'm dropping everybody. She's like, but I'm not dropping you because I need you. Don't worry. Like, that's where she's at. And that to me is so fucking cool. So just like you say, Danielle, like for us, like, it's cool we did $1 million event. I'm still geeking out inside. But hearing this artist's story and telling me, and then she even told me, she's like, Ani, thank you. Because I sat down with her privately during intensive because she was having obviously a hard time. She's like, what you said to me, she's like, it resonated, and I just keep pushing forward. She's like, but the love and the support here inside of BMS and Mastermind, she goes, is something I've never had in my life.
Right.
Ugh.
And the other story that I'm thinking about too, like, is that one girl that was like, and I know we talked about it on our last podcast, but she's like, she stood up because she wanted feedback and she was in pain, but her problem was that she has so many leads coming in and so much success in her salon and she had like 17 artists and like the phones were ringing off the hook, and but there was pain in her eyes, and you could see that she was sacrificing so much of herself that it was no longer, there wasn't a number big enough for her to be like, this is worth it.
Yeah.
And so she was losing out on that side of her life, and to me that's not worth it. And what's funny in my experience is when you hit that breaking point and you figure out, okay, well, I can still hustle, but I've got to do it differently because I'm not willing to like sacrifice myself and my family and my life to have this. There's got to be a better way of going about doing success. And for me, like when I dial that back in and I give myself permission, okay, I need to work, like raise my prices, or I need to do this, or whatever it is, I end up actually working less and having more balance in my life while creating more space and making more money, making more profit. And so that's what's crazy is like we get so scared, even as stylists, they're like, we'll hear stylists, and I know, Ani, you've had that experience where you're like, I'm working, like I have so much business, I'm not doing so good, and I'm working like 10 hours a day, and I have so much business, life is great, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, if you don't have time for you or like your significant other or your kids, like that sucks. And there isn't a number, in my mind, there is no number that can make that worth it. There just isn't. And for me, like when you get to that place, all of a sudden you're like, no. And I shared this story on stage. I'm like, no, this time when I go back to doing hair, I'm taking back control. I'm going to raise my prices. I'm not working Saturdays. And I just took on this persona of like, my happy place is 3 days and I will make what I made in 6 days in 3 days under my terms. And I did it. You know what I mean? And so that's what like is so cool is that people are like so scared to let go even if they have a ton of success, but then you can rebuild it back up to whatever you want.
Yeah, I think you have to like constantly like edit too, because I feel like for me at least, like I've gone into living this BMS program, but we're doing BMS and we're doing DKW. So for me, it's like 2 jobs, and I love what I do. So I work longer days in the salon, and then I go and I do BMS for like hours. And I always see you and Garrett giving me the side eye, like, why are you working so much? Or Garrett will be like telling me, you have no time for you. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, and after I did like convention and didn't die and like loved it so much, I don't know, like, you know, when you grow and then you have like the epiphanies, and like I had that space because everyone was so tired, and I was tired at convention, but I was like, this is actually easier for me because I'm only doing
hair.
1 client a day. I'm training on BMS, and then I'm going back to an empty hotel room. Like I wasn't doing homework. I wasn't rushing and making breakfast in the morning. Like I had some space, and in that space I got like clarity, and I'm like, I've been complicating things again. I've been making it so hard, like squeezing in more clients because we had an event, and then working like 5 hours at night when I didn't need to. Like at the end of the day, like work doesn't always get completed at the end of the day. There's not like, okay, the day is done and everything is caught up, you know? And I was complicating things and making it so that I was like burning out again, you know?
It's hard to let go of the art.
It's hard to let go of like anything when you enjoy it.
Yeah.
But then when I see like, Ryan had said to me, and I felt terrible, and he was like, I see your Instagram stories like all day long, and like you're so happy and you're having like such a good time, but by the time you get home, like
you're depleted.
You look like a zombie. And then I felt like so bad, and I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, so it leads me to believe like you're burning out or you're not enjoying home life. And I don't think it's that, which it isn't. And so I'm like, okay, it's time for me to like, so Jill and I had like a sit down yesterday, and I'm like, here's what it looks like. I got to reel it back in. This is me, and I'm setting the precedent for like me and Jill, and like I want to live what we're teaching, you know? But I think you get to this level, and like I do love the money that I'm making, but it's me. No one's putting this pressure on me except myself, and I need to like edit back in and say, okay, where's my sweet spot? And like you're a great example of that. Like these are my hours, and this is when I operate the best. This is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm not, you know? And I know we're like building stuff, and so it is going to come with like extra hustle. But I've noticed for myself, if I'm living currently like for that Sunday with the family, I just need to have like tiny little pockets throughout the week to recharge. And with that, then I come back and I'm like so excited to do my clients because I love all my clients. I'm so excited to do BMS because I freaking love the students. I'm so excited to be a part of anything at work because I love our teams, and I'm producing like better work that way, which like you said, then you get a higher profit.
Well, and it's sad because oftentimes the people who suffer are our families or our children.
Yeah.
Because we have to kind of turn it on when we go to work. We have to turn it on when we're educating. We have to like constantly like kind of like not fake it, but turn it on.
You're performing.
And, yeah. And like when you get home, you're just like, I'm fucking tired. And I remember that the same thing that you're going through, I've gone through like so many times.
Right.
And I remember a story I have is like, I used to always like try to micromanage and do everything on my own. And even hiring an assistant was really hard for me. And then I finally hired an assistant, and it was so funny. I'm not kidding you. The first day I had an assistant work with me, I got done an hour earlier. And I know that seems like not a big deal, but consistently an hour earlier every night. Plus, I was like got to like sit down during the day because I wasn't doing everything. And I remember going on a date night with Garrett that night that I got off like my first day with an assistant just an hour earlier. It was like at 5 instead of, well, it was probably like 2 hours earlier. But anyways, I got off at like 5, went over, and he's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? And he's like, you look alive. That's like the first thing he said to me. And I was like, I know, it's so fun. I love it. And he was just like, oh my God. And it was in that moment. And we have certain moments in our careers where we're like, yep. And it's like pivotal moments. And I knew my magic formula. And I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, I get sloppy after 5. If this appointment goes later, it's gonna get ugly. But I never work past 5. Like I always joke around, and I like share this story of when my sister does hair too. And one time she took on a client at 7 o'clock at night, which many stylists do. For those of you who don't know that, like that's normal to take a 7 or an 8 o'clock appointment and work till fucking 11 or 12 at night. That is fucking normal in our industry, and it has to stop. But it's funny, my sister, single mom, hustling, doing her thing when she was divorced at the time, and I gave her one of my clients, and she's like, oh my God. I'm like, what? And she's like, so I thought I put on a blonde base color. So if you don't do hair, she's like, she thought she put like a 9 or a 10 on for a base. She put on a 3.
No.
And she had already foiled, and it was already processing. And she's texting me, and I'm like, abort mission. Like I didn't even know what to tell her. And she ended up like, she was like, she like was so depleted and so tired and like hit her threshold. And she looked at the girl and like was like, I fucked up your hair. You have black roots. And she's like, I think we should just dye it brown, because she was even too tired to correct what she had done. Yeah. Which she should have just done like a bleach wash or whatever and figured it out. But she was so depleted and so tired, she just talked the girl into going brown. And then the girl texted me like 3 weeks later, and I had to deal with this client for 2 weeks telling me like how much she hated her hair. And I was like, oh my God, my sister's really good. It's just that one time.
And so just to be
7.
Well, and just to be clear for anyone who doesn't do hair, a level 9-10 is like a beautiful like platinum-y blonde. It's such a bright, beautiful blonde. A 3
is like a black brown.
Yes, I'm telling you right now, once again, if you are not watching us, go to bigmoneystylistnow.com. I'm tilting my hat down. This is lighter than a 3.
Yeah.
So this like 3 is a dark brown.
She was in a dark place.
That being level 3. But no, Val, I love how you were saying, and Danielle, you were saying too, like the very first time you had an assistant, you were like, holy shit, this is a game changer. And I know myself, I will always admit I'm a complete control freak, especially when it comes to everything inside BMS, because I spent so much time like helping build it and create it, and I put I swear there's little pieces of my soul inside BMS everywhere.
And that's why it's so hard to let go.
Yes, oh my gosh, yes. So, but I finally got to the point where Garrett, literally, we walked off stage during BMS. He looked at me, he's like, you're hiring an assistant. I was like, I hear you.
But wait, I don't need sleep.
I'll do everything. But I literally looked at him, and I'm like, I hear you, but, and he's like, Ani, look at me. He's like, you make enough money. You are hiring someone on. You are going to have them with you. You are going to train them. It will make your life easier. I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, I hear you. But, and then I walked away, and I'm like, you want me? I don't even give a shit about paying someone. That's fine. But you want me to I have to train this person, and that takes a lot of time. Then I'm like, oh, fuck. Then they're going to be with me all the time. And it that actually, I think has stressed me out more than anything else has recently. But I was like, okay, Garrett has never led me the wrong way. You have never led me the wrong way. Everyone's been telling me this for a long time that I need to do it. So I'm like, I'm just going to, okay, I guess I'm going to try and find an assistant. And I was ready to throw up. So there's a girl inside of our network who actually just moved to California from Ohio. And she's to me, super chill, California vibes, even though she's from the Midwest. So, and her name's Morgan. So I was like, okay, I'll have Morgan come in. I gave her a 12.
Tell them the story why you didn't want Morgan.
Okay, look, I even told Morgan this yesterday. I said it to her face. Morgan has a little boy or little girl, sorry. And she's almost 2 years old.
Working moms, jeez.
Well, she's 21 months old. And I know what BMS takes, because I know how much I pour into it. And I'm like, God, how many times have I sat there looking at Val saying, Val, go home. Val, why are you here? Val, do it tomorrow. It's fine. They'll survive. Go home, go home, go home.
I got to tell you one thing really, really quick.
Yeah.
My kids pushed me to the level in which I'm at. If I did not have children, I would not perform in the level that I'm at. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't. I would do hair as a hobby my whole life. You are like one of the few that you're just like, rah! Like I don't think I would be there. So like when you have kids, I'm like, oh my God, what's Ani gonna be like? She's
Right?
already like this now.
I'm
like
king of the world. Not even queen. I'm the king, motherfuckers.
But kids do that to you. So I couldn't express that to you. I couldn't be like, Ani, like I promise you, like having a child sometimes like actually makes you like level up in so many ways. So I was like, all right, I'm not gonna push it. I'll let you see it on your own.
Yep, and it took me a minute, and it also took Garrett calling me a baby racist, which I'm like, you fucking dick. First he called me baby racist, then he's like, it's cool, Ani. First you're gonna get me. He goes, now you're like the single young one, but then you'll be the married one, and then you'll be the married one with kids. And he goes, no wait, you're for sure having a kid out of wedlock. I'm like, oh my God. Why would you say that to me? But anyway, so Morgan, my assistant, so I was, I'm like, God, she has like a little baby. She's barely 2 years old. I'm like, shit, like I know what it takes. And I've seen what I've said to Val. I'm like, I don't want to be the person to take a mom away because BMS is a lot. Like there is, thank God my capacity is as big as it is and it only gets bigger, but I knew what it would take. And so I kept thinking about it, but I'm like, fuck, I really like Morgan. Like I love her energy. I love her vibe. And I'm like, okay, then I almost had to go through and like reframe it. I'm like, well, let's think about it this way. If she's someone's assistant inside the salon, there are days and hours, it's an end of discussion, you are there. There's no leeway. Inside of BMS, there is leeway because 90% of the time we're going to be inside headquarters. She'll be just working beside me. If her kid gets sick, if there's an emergency, if something happens, I told her, I'm like, you go home, you take care of your family, you take care of your little girl. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, that doesn't bother me. Obviously, like, don't make this a habit. It's like emergency situations, but there's leeway for a mom. And then when I thought about it, I'm like, BMS would actually be amazing for her, like, to work with me because there is that leeway. Like, she has
it's not like being behind the chair.
Yeah.
Like, super long hours.
Well, like if there's a flying client, that's what I was telling Ani. If there's a flying client, like you can't move your schedule. I've never once
you
moved
cannot.
a client. Like I've never, because I've been sick or my kids being sick, I've never moved a client. Like ever.
I've had the flu and I had literally next day looked at my books. I had 2 fly-ins and I was like,
I got this.
like I literally was like downing the Gatorade and just like
you got it before freaking BMS the last convention.
That's
That was
true.
the worst.
That's the one thing. Like, there's times in your life where you're like, I put on, like, just make it work. And yeah, that's true. Before our last BMS, I got food poisoning really bad. The night before, and I'm like, oh my God, we're doing this event. And I just literally like said a couple prayers, but you know what? I felt like I got in my head and like talked to myself like, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be fine. And I actually think that there is something to that.
Yeah.
Like if you tell yourself you're sick, you're sick, and if you tell yourself you're strong, you're strong.
Healthy and strong.
Yes.
Healthy and healed.
I really put on the healthy and healed. I slept all day. I drank a shit ton of water, and the next day I was like, I think I'm functioning enough. I got this.
And I remember that was fucking gnarly. So, but I just know like with Morgan, like I had to like reframe it in my head because sometimes we have stories and it's not, guys, I have nothing against children. Like I'm going to have kids some days and they're going to take over the world after me. You be ready for this. Get ready, guys. My kids are taking over.
Are you Queen Ani?
I'm Queen Ani's daughter. Oh, I'm sorry. She prefers King Ani.
Oh my God.
Just kidding.
So excited for your husband.
I'm kidding. I will submit to my husband if he can step up, but you gotta step up, motherfucker.
Again, so excited for your husband.
I bet you he'll be super chill and fun.
Yeah.
Just saying. But yeah, like I just had to like reframe all that in my head. Like, no, having a kid, like you're not taking her away from something. You're actually giving her an opportunity where there is a little bit of leeway. Even now, I text her this morning and I'm like, hey, here's what I need you to do while I'm inside of training. I need you to go do this, get that. And she's like, yeah, I already have half of that done. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, it's all done? It was literally 9:30 in the morning. She's like, I already finished that. I'm like, oh my God.
You're going to get to this weird space, Ani, where you're like, there's not a million things going in your mind. Because I was at that place for so many times and so many years. And then like you get to this place and you're like, it's quiet. And it's kind of scary. You're like, my mind is quiet. Everything on the checklist is done. I'm up to point. Like it gets weird. And you're like, what should I do? And then, but that's space for you to create something new or different or whatever, you know?
And that's why even yesterday I was like, okay, Morgan, I'm like, and because I have to like reel it in because I'm so used to doing everything. I'm like, this is like, just do it. But I'm like, no, you teach her, you train her correctly, you do it thoroughly, you do it once, and then she can continue from there doing that task. And then as she's getting like a ton of shit done beside me, I'm sitting there doing more stuff. And even I talked to Val and she's like, dude, I saw the network. You got a lot done today. I'm like, I know. So much got done because it wasn't 2 hands. It was 4 hands, 2 heads. Like there was so much that got done. And I even texted Garrett yesterday and I'm like, okay. I'm like, you were right. thank you once again.
How much do you think he lives for those texts? All those times that we're like, God dang it, you're right, Garrett. I know we all fought you on this one, but
I've lived my whole life like that.
must be frustrating.
Well, it's funny because Garrett is he's really good at giving people permission.
Yes.
And so, like, I don't know how he does it. He, like, gets in your mind and he, like, flips the switch and you're like, I can do this. Like, and all of a sudden, people that are actually willing to, like, kind of put forth the effort, he gives you that empowerment and, like, tells you and you're like, and you're like, oh, fuck you, but thank you. Fuck you very much.
Yes, and that's why I had texted him yesterday and I was like, okay, I'll admit it. I was a little hesitant on the assistant front. Wasn't really sure how I felt. But having Morgan in the salon one day and now having her inside BMS for one day, like, you were right. This is amazing and it's great. I'm like, thanks for pushing me and knowing what was best for me before I did. He's like, boom, yes. I'm like, I hear Gary yelling all the way from Huntington Beach. I know he is. But it's that to me now is like such a big profit that I'm seeing. Like knowing like I fucking hustled and I have busted ass like never before for BMS. Like all of us have for BMS to be where it is now. And now I'm like, okay, having like an extra set of hands, having Morgan on, doesn't make her like, because I think I almost struggle with like, is that making me like lazier? Am I not doing enough now? Now do I need to do like more? And I was like, no, hold on. I always have to like reel myself back in and be like, look what you did. Look what you've already accomplished. You did all this shit on your own. Imagine what you could do if you didn't have to do like tiny detail things and you could focus on what your actual job is, and that's the training aspect. So yesterday I was redoing like the 30-day sprint and the 7 days before, and like I'm halfway through all the challenges now. Like I'm so excited about it. It's gonna be such a good week next week.
Also too, like what this whole show about is like profit can be found in other areas in your life than just the actual dollar amount.
Yes.
And that's what we teach inside of like BMS is because it's so hard to say no to clients and money and whatnot, and so we burn ourselves out, and you have to find profit in all areas of your life. And so even for us, we have to live what we preach. So if we're burning out, then we have to figure out how to like be in that place where you're like everything's done and kind of manage and delegate and actually have a good life where you're like, this is fun. I can work, but I also have time for me. I have time for family, and really creating that balance, because I think that entrepreneurs and people that work really hard, they get so addicted to the grind.
Yes.
And I get it. But if your company is moving forward and you're able to enjoy life, for me, that's profitable. For me, I'm at that place with my business where I'm like, I'm not as stressed out. I can come do these podcasts and I get a lot of fulfillment in it. I can go do hair and I'm done before 5 and I get a lot of fulfillment of that. I can go run on the beach at 3 p.m. when I'm done with work with my kids and spend time with them and find fulfillment in that. And so it's like we have to literally like let go and delegate, all of us, in order for this company to rise. And I know it will, but we have to be okay with like literally doing what we're teaching. Like we're like enjoying life and we're still reaping the benefits. You know what I mean? It's so hard. I know. I get it. I'm like, you guys you're getting there. We're all working towards it.
And that's what I always tell the students. I'm like, if it seems like we have our life together, I am so sorry. Like I'm still a student inside of this. And for me, I know, and I will always be so aware. I feel like inside of like my personal life and relationships and friendships, like the control factor I've always had of like, and even like future pacing, being like, well, I'm here now, but if this is where we're going, here are the steps in between, and then being like, oh God, I literally have like made up timelines in my head of when things should be, and I'm like, who said that? I'm like, no one said it. That's not even a rule. It's not, even if it was, fuck the rules. Like, and I would like stress myself out by future pacing so much about things that literally like no one said it had to be that way. And I've learned to like dial it back inside of like my personal life. Like, okay, right now it is what it is. This is great. It's amazing. You just accept it, and whatever it turns into, great. If it turns into nothing, that's great too. Who gives a shit? But I've had to like, don't be so crazy. This is not work. It's not business. You can't control it. And now inside business, I'm like, okay, you have controlled a lot. You've done well doing it. But in order to grow, you have to delegate. Even now, like the money in the cards, I don't know if you know this, I've always dealt with that. When people are like, I need to change my card, charge this, don't charge that. I was the one that did it. And now I'm like, okay, guys, it's almost 300 people inside Mastermind. I can't do this anymore. So I'm like, if you need something, you email this person. If you need this, you have to. Jeff.
Otherwise, like, you can't enjoy life. And you know what? You have to. The higher we get as trainers, we can't be so readily available. We can't. Because it discredits us and what we're teaching and where we're at. Do you know what I mean? Like even just recently on like all of my stuff, people would still email me, and I had my own personal email there, and I'm like, why do I have my own personal email there? Like the brand is at that point. I do not need my own personal email, and it makes me look not lower, but
But
make
I hear what-
it
yeah.
more accessible, I guess you could say. And I was like, even though I don't mind, like when people email me like the weirdest questions, I try to be friendly, and I'm like, yeah, date's coming soon, can't wait to have you, la, la, la. So many heart emojis. And I always try to take the time to email everybody back, but I'm like, it actually just hit me yesterday. I'm like, why is my personal email still up? So I put Kenzie's there. You're welcome, Kenz. She doesn't know that yet.
Well,
I think
Kenzie,
she knows now.
If you're listening, you about to find out. But even then, like, you could have always put mine because I'm the lead of the education. I'm like, I'm cool with it. I answer
could.
everything.
I should put that on the MBR page, but because she deals with client relations and she's the salon manager, I got to talk to her today anyway. I figured I'd break the news to her.
Kenzie, we're having your meeting on the podcast right now. If you could join
If
us.
you could dial in, please, extension 001.
Well, it's funny because with the more I delegate, the quieter my email box gets, because I used to get all the apps and like for me, and it's so stressful. And you guys know how I am when I take everything on. I get too emotionally involved, and I'm like a monster, and then I can't do the things like where I can't be happy Danielle. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like we all have to know how to delegate so that we're still our true selves and not like this other crazy, mad, emotionally wrapped up person, because that's not a fun place to be.
Or that you're spread so thin that you're not giving. Like I remember Garrett always said this to me, and Ryan says it too. Like you're not multitasking. You're giving everyone like shitty pieces of you. You're not like, so when you're somewhere, you need to give it like all of you. Don't do this multitasking bullshit, because that doesn't exist, you know.
Right.
And I remember like thinking to Garrett, I
God
can
damn it,
multitask.
Garrett.
I'm a girl. I can multitask. You don't understand because you're a guy. And I'm like, God damn it, he's right. Because when you're spread so thin, then you're just merely trying to survive, and that's no way, because no one's getting. Your kids aren't getting the best of you. Your company's not getting the best of you. The students aren't getting the best of you. So you have to find that like sweet spot so that you have that space to come up. Like all of us are super creative and have these great ideas on how we can like build the business and make like the education program better, make the client experience better, get better at our craft, and get able to like have better creative formulas, all of that. But if you don't have that space to like have that mind, you won't, and you're just like barely getting through the day instead of like thriving at everything.
Well, and the same goes with hair, don't you think? As a colorist, like it goes back to like pre-mixing your colors when the client gets there, because you spread yourself so thin that you don't have any ability to look at the hair and determine what it needs like the professional should. Like we shouldn't go into like that robot mode, because we're spreading ourselves so thin that we're like, hey, you're getting this because like it is what it is. You know what I mean? And I honestly am guilty of that too, because I book mine so close. Like most people book theirs like 3 or 4 hours apart, and I book mine every 2 hours. And so oftentimes I'll be like, client will come sit in and I'll look at the hair. Like I had a client named Sarah yesterday, and I didn't realize that she hadn't had her color done in like 6 months or longer, and her extensions were extremely brassy. And literally she texts on the way, by the way, I need new hair. I'm like, fuck, what? Why did we not know this ahead of time? So that's another reason for me to go talk to who's ever running my books. But I still was like, oh my God. And she sat down, and I wanted to do like 4 foils and just plop in the hair and be done. And I was like, because I was already running short on time, and I was like, no, like I can't do that. I already committed to like up the bar for myself, for everybody on my team, for those who we teach. And I was just like, all right, we got this. And I was like, we're going in. And I just like hustled, and I worked through it, and I put in the work, and I didn't allow myself to just get to that place of like spreading too thin because I didn't have enough time. I just knew that I would make it work. I texted the next client, told him I was running a little late, and I made sure that like I just kind of shifted my time and make sure everybody had like a good experience. So oftentimes when you do feel like you're spread thin, even if you're behind the chair, sometimes when you're spread thin, like you actually, you don't do yourself a favor, because that client might not be 100% happy, and they might reach back out, or like you're stressing about it, or like, oh, it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, or whatever. So it's just important like to kind of put in the work, especially if you're working with an assistant. You can always get it done.
Absolutely. And even Monday, when I was inside the salon, one of my clients, her hair, we have been having a back and forth for 6 months. She's like, I want to be blonder. I'm like, no, your hair is already fried. If I put bleach on these ends, you're going to be bald. So it's Amber. So we went like back and forth and back and forth. And finally she like submitted and was like, okay, fine, like whatever. We're 6 months in. Her hair is almost to her collarbone.
Oh, really?
And you remember how,
Yeah.
no offense, Amber, if you listen, I love you, but it was a shit show.
Yeah.
And it was like broken off at the top and fried off because people kept overly bleaching
Because they
it.
were letting the client have the control of the appointment. And honestly, if you've researched somebody and you know they're good, like my favorite thing when going to somebody like this is just sit down and be like, I know you're good. I trust you. Here's kind of what I'm looking for. But in the end, like, what do you recommend?
Yeah.
And so even like when our clients sit in our chair, and this is what we train the stylists, I'm like, the minute they sit in their chair, you take control of that appointment because you're the professional, and that's ultimately what they want. So you start analyzing the hair and you tell them, here's what I recommend, here's what I think I could do. And if you start your appointment that way, in that frame, your clients are like, oh yeah, okay, that sounds good. Like 9 out of 10 times that works. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's a battle and you're like, well, I'm not willing to put my name on this. I'm not willing to fry your hair. And if you'd like to go to somebody else who will, have at it. And then they kind of are like, no, I don't want my, I joke around. I'm like, sometimes we have to parent our clients.
Yes.
Like, but they need that, and they like that, and they over time they're like, thank you for not frying my hair off. You know?
Well,
Definitely.
Oh my God, you should have seen my second client on Monday. She was hysterical, super nervous coming in, to the point where she told me she even researched me and has a screenshot of me, like a picture of my face, to make sure that I was the actual one doing her hair when she came in. So she's delightful, actually. She was really fun, but I could like feel her nerves. So I'm like, okay, what's up? And I was just honest, like, you know me, I'm pretty blunt. Like, I'm kind, but I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, look, someone put tape-ins in my hair. They fried my hair. It's trash. I'm like, yeah, I feel it. No more bleach can go on your hair. I said, with that being said, I'm like, here's what we need to do. And I'm talking to Morgan. I'm like, here's our plan for this is this. And I can feel her energy's almost like freaking out more. And I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, well, you're just saying some of the things that my other stylist said, and I hated my hair. I'm like, I hear you. I'm like, here's what I don't like about your hair now. I'm like, I don't like this, 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 this. I'm like, do you like those things? She's like, no. I'm like, okay. I would prefer it to look like this, this, this. Is that what you want? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. I go, I know you said you researched. I'm like, do you actually know anything about me? She's like, no. I'm like, let me explain. I'm like, I started in St. Louis. I've been doing NBR for 3 years. I did this and this with BMS, Danielle, and Garrett, and they recruited me to come work here. I go, there's a reason I'm here. I got you. And she was like, oh. Okay. You like know what you're doing. I'm like, oh my God. It's almost like Danielle trained me at some point. But I was like dying laughing because she literally was like, here's a picture of you. I'm like, oh, that's me on your phone. I was like, oh fuck.
It's a little weird, but okay. Let's
Morgan,
forward.
Yep, Morgan was just like, okay. And I'm like, I'm like, don't put the panic face on. But that one kind of freaked me out a little. But it was also funny. But that's also like, we just have to like manage that always. And at the end, she messaged me on Instagram yesterday and she's like, and you know, sometimes when that happens, you're like, oh no, like why on Instagram? And she's like, hey, I feel like I didn't tip you enough. I'm sorry. I'm going to send you more money. I'm like, you're good.
She realized how much she loves her hair like 2 weeks in. She's like, it's so good.
It was 1 day later. I did her hair Monday. This was yesterday. So 1 day. And then I'm like, hey, you're fine. Don't worry. I'm like, but how do you like your hair? She's like, I love it. It blends perfectly. I can't even feel they're there. I can't believe it's not bulky. And I'm like, thank you, hair gods. You had my back. But no, it was like beautiful. And she was so happy. But things
I love
like
when
that,
clients leave and like they're so tense when they sit down and you're almost like, when they're like that, I kind of just give them space if they have a book and they want to read or whatever. And I just am like kind of polite, or I talk with us and kind of joke around and I don't want to like, I just kind of like let them be. And I'm like, I can't let their energy get into mine. I know what I'm doing. And so I just do my thing. And it's so funny because they pretend like they're not paying attention and but they're kind of side looking in the mirror and but they're trying to give you that that control. And you have to just be like, whatever. And then my favorite part is when you get done and you're styling and they can't contain the energy anymore. They're like, oh my God, I look so good. And you're like, yeah, you do.
I know. Well, it was funny when I was smudging her at the bowl, Kenzie came to ask me a question. And when Kenzie walked away, she goes, and she was kidding, but she goes, tell her to stop talking to you. I need you to concentrate on my hair. I'm like, girl, I got you. Don't you worry. But I was like dying laughing. But she was really funny, obviously very like snarky, sarcastic, which you know those are my favorite personalities. So we got along like super well. But to me, it was just so funny. She was in such like a panic mode. And I told her, I'm like, look, I go, and when she left, I said, just to be clear, I am not offended to offend me takes like an extreme amount. That's why if I'm pissed off and offended, you know, like shit's gone sideways because it never happens. I'm like, if you have any questions, thoughts, concerns, always text me. I go, even if you think it's stupid, I can guarantee you it's not. I've been asked any and every question. I would rather you ask me 100 questions and have clarity and know that everything's okay in your head than for you to be worried every single day. I'm like, just ask. And she's like, oh my God, thank you. Like she was like super geeked out, but that is like inside the salon. That's part of the profit. Like it's so cool to see those moments when they're like, oh God, please no. And then by the end they're like, I'm perfect.
I think too, there's a lot of artists, and I was one of them in the beginning, where I loved seeing, because extensions is such a big transformation, and I loved seeing like literally how they'd come in, like one person, their energy was like dark. No, it wasn't dark, but it was
Dark
like
Val.
it was just like they weren't they were just kind of like nervous or whatnot. And then when they leave, their whole countenance like changes. They light up. Like for me, that was so fulfilling. And for so long, like I devalued what I did for women. Not even I always say I'm like it's not about the hair. It's about how they feel when they leave.
Right.
And for me, that was like I'd geek out on that, and I'd found so much fulfillment on that. And I didn't charge a ton. And it was when I had like some hard times in my life where I was like, you know what? I'm devaluing what I'm doing. So it's important to have that profit come in where like you see that exchange with the client and you know you gave it your all and they're leaving like feeling on fire. But in the end, profit is about also doing the numbers so that you yourself are not putting in this time, effort, and work and selling yourself out or spreading yourself too thin.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, we're coming soon to be at the end. We only have a few minutes left. I'm like, let's go for another hour, guys. This is so fun.
We still got 2 hours upstairs.
I know.
Reel it in.
You're good.
I get to talk about so much more. But even like going back to like profit and like clients talking to you and things like that and being with your kids, you know, because something that obviously like I push super hard to where even like you and Garrett have been like, why are you at work on a Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
Are you actually at headquarters? And I'm like, no, yes. I almost like sometimes don't want to admit where I'm at because I'm like, I'm at home, I'm at the beach. They're like, we drove by, we saw your car. I'm kidding. But it's something that's super cool. And like this reminds me to like continuously like take care of myself. Like even after BMS Con, I got a lot of messages from artists inside the network and a lot of like the pod leaders that were there. And they were telling me, they were like, thank you. This was the best event we've ever been at. It only got better. This was so crazy. Like I'm leaving like feeling so great about myself, finding so much power. I have so much more clarity in my life, which that me like amps me up and you know it. But then it's so funny because there's always like a group of them that will message me privately and be like, but we know how much you put into this. We know what you did. We need you to take care of you. If you fall apart, BMS is not the same. We need you. So because we need you to take care of you and make yourself a priority. And every time I'm like,
I think that's why hiring an assistant is like really just jabbing you this week. I can see it because you hit your threshold. You literally are like, I'm done. And we've all been there. And it's time, and you'll find so much like when you kind of let go and when you have that assistant, you'll be a new you. You know what I mean? Like you think you're like letting go of power and that you're not going to be as powerful, only to find out that you become more powerful. So good job this week.
This is a big moment for me.
Congratulations,
Lord
Ani.
knows I don't let go of control easily. I'm like, I got everything. It's fine. They're like, Ani, your eyes are bugging out. I'm like, no, they're not. Your eyes are bugging out. Your eyes are sunken in. That's why you think my eyes are bugging out. So with that being said, Coach
On
Val.
that note,
and while Ani has
let go and let it grow.
Oh, I love it.
Say it one more time, Danielle. What was that?
Let go and let it grow.
And on that note, guys, we will see you next week for the Big Money Stylist podcast.